Listen, folks, this is something nobody tells you, but it's absolutely true. Laughing at the wrong time, the wrong place, it can ruin everything. I've seen it happen to powerful people, smart people, and guess what? They lost respect, they lost opportunities, sometimes even their entire reputation. A wise man, a very wise man, he avoids laughing in 6 situations, and today I'm going to share them with you. This is going to be huge, believe me. You know, one of the most damaging mistakes people make, and it happens all the time, believe me, is laughing when somebody is sharing their struggles. Now, let me tell you, folks, this is something that separates the winners from the losers. Weak people, very weak people, they laugh at the pain of others. Strong people, powerful people, successful people, they listen, they nod, they show respect. And when somebody is opening up about their difficulties, whether it's family problems, money problems, health problems, this is not a comedy show. This is not a joke. This is life. And life can be very, very tough sometimes. I've sat across from people, very smart people, very rich people, and I've also sat across from people who had nothing, who were at the very bottom. And let me tell you, when a person shares their pain, when they open their heart, it's one of the most vulnerable moments you will ever see. And if you laugh, if you smirk, if you treat it like it's funny, you destroy them. You crush their spirit, and you also destroy yourself, because people never forget the way you made them feel in their darkest hour. Never. You could build a building, you could save a company, you could do something wonderful, but if you laughed when somebody was down, that stain sticks to you forever. Now let's talk about what happens inside the person who's struggling. Imagine they've been carrying a burden. Maybe they lost a loved one. Maybe they can't pay the bills. Maybe they're being humiliated by failure. And it takes courage, tremendous courage, to sit down with somebody and say, here's what I'm going through. That's not easy. That's strength disguised as weakness. But if you laugh, what you're really saying is, I don't value your pain. I don't respect your humanity. I don't take you seriously. And you turn that moment into a wound that never heals. Think about this. How many friendships, how many business relationships, how many marriages have been destroyed because one person laughed when the other person needed support? More than you know. You may think it's just a small chuckle, a joke, a little smile, but to them it feels like betrayal. It feels like mockery. And believe me, betrayal cuts deeper than almost anything else. Great leaders, great men, great women, they understand that there's a time for humor and there's a time for seriousness. And when someone's pouring out their heart, you better be serious. You show empathy, you show respect. You say, I hear you, I understand, I'm with you. That's leadership, that's wisdom, and that's how you build trust that lasts forever. Because when people remember you as the person who stood by them, who listened to them, who respected their struggle, they never forget it. They will follow you, they will support you, they will love you. But here's the other side. If you laugh, if you dismiss them, if you treat their struggles like a comedy act, they will never, ever trust you again. You could come back years later with all the money in the world, with all the power, with all the apologies. It won't matter. The damage is permanent. That's how powerful laughter can be when used at the wrong time. Let me give you a real example. I've seen people in business, young entrepreneurs, come into a meeting, nervous, shaking, trying to pitch their idea. And sometimes they stumble, they don't have the perfect words, maybe they mess up a slide. And what happens? Somebody in the room starts laughing, and you can see it. Their confidence collapses instantly. They feel like fools, and the laughter, it echoes in their mind for years. They think, I'll never put myself out there again, I'll never try again. That's the power of mocking laughter. It kills dreams, it destroys potential. Now think about the opposite. Imagine instead of laughing, somebody says, it's okay, take your time, I believe in you. That little bit of respect, that little bit of kindness, it lifts them up, it gives them strength. And that's how winners behave. That's how wise men behave. You see, folks, life is already hard enough. People are struggling every day with things you don't even see. The neighbor you think is happy might be drowning in debt. The coworker you think is lazy might be caring for a sick child at home. The friend who always smiles might be fighting depression. You don't know what battles people are fighting. And if you laugh when they finally reveal the truth, you're not just being insensitive, you're being cruel. And cruelty, let me tell you, is the fastest way to destroy your reputation. A wise man avoids laughing at struggles because he understands something most people don't. Respect is more valuable than gold. Respect can't be bought. It can't be faked. It can only be earned. And when you show people that you respect their pain, that you take their struggles seriously, you earn their trust, their loyalty, and their admiration. And let me tell you this, people are watching you all the time. They're watching how you react, how you respond, what you laugh at, what you take seriously. If you laugh when someone's suffering, even if you think nobody noticed, believe me, somebody did, and they will remember. But if you show compassion, if you stay serious, if you show that you care, people notice that too, and that's how you build a legacy. So when somebody is sharing their struggles, don't laugh, don't joke, don't treat it lightly, look them in the eye, nod, listen, maybe put a hand on their shoulder, say something encouraging. That moment will mean more to them than you can imagine, and it will mean more to you too, because you'll know that you acted like a wise man, a strong man, a respected man. That's what winners do. They don't laugh at pain. They respect it, they understand it, and they use it to build deeper connections, stronger relationships, and lasting success. Believe me, it's true. You know, folks, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and I've seen it all, believe me, is laughing during serious negotiations. Let me tell you, negotiations are not a joke. Negotiations are war without bullets. That's right. Every word, every pause, every look, it all matters. And if you laugh, if you giggle, if you crack a joke, you lose all credibility. You lose the respect in the room, you lose the deal. And I've seen people throw away millions, just because they didn't know how to control themselves in a negotiation. Now, I've negotiated with some of the toughest people in the world, business leaders, foreign leaders, contractors, bankers, you name it. And let me tell you this, the moment you laugh, the moment you show you're not serious, they smell weakness. They see you as someone they can push around, someone they can manipulate, someone they can take advantage of. Because a negotiation at its core is about respect. It's about power. It's about who is in control. And laughter, unless it's used very carefully, hands the control over to the other side. Picture this. You're at the table. You're trying to make a deal. The stakes are high. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's a partnership. Maybe it's your future. And the other side says something. Maybe they throw out a ridiculous number. Maybe they try to insult you. Maybe they say something completely unrealistic. And instead of holding your ground, instead of giving that strong silence, you laugh. Big mistake, huge mistake, because now they know you're rattled. They know you're not serious. They know they can test you, push you, break you down. I never laugh in negotiations. Never. Do I smile sometimes? Sure. Do I throw out a little humor when it's strategic? Absolutely. But it's calculated. It's deliberate. It's never careless. Because the deal table is not a comedy club. It's not entertainment. It's business. And when you treat it as anything less than life or death for your future, you lose. And I don't like losing. Nobody hates losing more than me. I'll tell you something interesting. When I was younger, I watched other people negotiate. I studied them. I learned. And I noticed a pattern. The ones who laughed, the ones who joked too much, the ones who tried to be liked more than respected, they lost. They always lost. They walked away with less money, worse terms, weaker positions. And the ones who stayed calm, who kept their faces straight, who refused to break character, they won every single time. And that's when I understood laughter has a place, but not in the middle of a serious deal. Think about poker. When you play poker, do you laugh when you have a good hand? Do you laugh when somebody bluffs? No, because that gives you away. You keep your poker face. You stay in control. Negotiations are the same thing. A laugh is a tell. A laugh reveals something about you, your nerves, your uncertainty, your lack of confidence. And once the other side sees it, they own you. Let me give you a real-world example. I remember negotiating with a developer who wanted to sell a property at a ridiculous price. Outrageous. He made his pitch, he showed his numbers, and when I told him my counteroffer, he laughed. He literally laughed at me, right at the table. And do you know what happened? He lost. Because that laugh told me everything I needed to know. It told me he was overconfident. It told me he underestimated me, and I crushed him in that deal. I walked away with the property at my price, not his. That one laugh cost him millions. On the flip side, I've also seen people laugh nervously, trying to break the tension, trying to make everybody comfortable. Big mistake. Comfort is the enemy of leverage. If the other side feels too comfortable, if they feel like this is just fun and games, you lose the edge. Negotiations are supposed to have tension. Tension is power. Tension forces respect. And when you laugh it away, you hand them the advantage. You see, a wise man knows when to smile and when to stay stone-faced. If you want to win, you've got to project strength. And strength is serious. Strength is controlled. Strength is silent when it needs to be. And silence, by the way, is one of the most powerful tools in a negotiation. You say your number, you state your terms, and then you stay quiet. Let them fill the silence, let them squirm, let them sweat. But if you laugh, if you turn that silence into a joke, you lose that pressure and the deal starts slipping away. Now, here's the thing. People will test you. They'll say things just to see how you react. They'll throw out crazy ideas, wild numbers, personal insults, even lies. And they're watching closely how you respond. If you laugh, you fail the test. They know they can play with you. But if you stay composed, if you show no crack, no weakness, then they know this person is serious. This person is strong. This person cannot be shaken. And that's when they respect you. That's when you win. So let me say it clearly. Never laugh during a serious negotiation. Save your laughter for victory, for celebration after you've won the deal. Laugh when the contract is signed, when the money is in the bank, when the victory is yours. That's when laughter is powerful. But not before. Before that, you stay sharp, you stay strong, you stay absolutely serious. And here's the truth, folks. People may not remember every word you say in a negotiation, but they will always remember how you made them feel. If you made them feel you were serious, strong, unshakable, they'll respect you. If you made them feel you were nervous, joking, not focused, they'll walk all over you. It's that simple. Winners know this. Wise men know this. And that's why they avoid laughter when the stakes are high. Because laughter at the wrong time doesn't just cost you money, it costs you respect, it costs you opportunities, it costs you your future. And a wise man never lets that happen. One of the worst things a person can do, and I mean one of the absolute worst, is to laugh when somebody makes a mistake in public. You've seen it, I've seen it. Somebody stumbles, maybe they drop their notes, maybe they mispronounce a word, maybe they lose track of what they were saying. It happens to everybody. Nobody is perfect, but the way people around them react tells you everything about who they really are. The small people, the weak ones, they laugh, they point, they whisper, they turn someone else's embarrassment into their entertainment. But the strong people, the wise people, they don't laugh. They keep a straight face. They help. They give respect. That's how you know the difference between a leader and a follower. I've been on stages with thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people watching, and I can tell you, making a mistake in public, it feels 10 times worse than making one in private. You already know you slipped. You already know you look vulnerable, and then you hear laughter from the crowd. That's crushing. That can stay with a person for years. Some never recover from it. They carry that humiliation like a scar. And every time they think about speaking again, about stepping up again, they remember the laughter. Now imagine this. A young student gets called up in front of the class. They're nervous, their hands are shaking. They try to answer a question or give a presentation, and they mess up. Maybe they say the wrong thing. Maybe they freeze. What happens? Half the room bursts out laughing. To them, it's just a joke, just a funny moment. But to that student, it's devastating. They feel stupid, embarrassed, ashamed. That laughter could stop them from ever raising their hand again, ever speaking in front of people again. That's how damaging it is. In business, in leadership, in life, the same rule applies. If somebody on your team makes a mistake during a meeting or a presentation, you don't laugh, you don't roll your eyes, you don't undermine them, you protect them, you correct the mistake, but you do it with strength and dignity. Because if you laugh, you don't just embarrass them, you weaken your entire team. You send a message that failure is something to mock, not something to learn from. And teams that laugh at each other's mistakes never grow, they collapse. Think about the great leaders throughout history. Did they laugh at their people when they made mistakes? No, they corrected them, they coached them, they built them back up. Because leaders understand that mistakes are part of the process. Nobody gets everything right the first time. And laughing doesn't make the mistake smaller, it makes it bigger. It magnifies it. It brands the person as a fool instead of as a learner. I've had people working for me who made very big mistakes, costly mistakes. And I never laughed, not once, because if I laughed, they'd shut down, they'd stop trying, they'd stop risking, and you can't build success with people who are afraid to make a move. Instead, I told them what went wrong, I told them how to fix it, and I expected them to come back stronger. And guess what? Many of them did. Some of my best people, the ones who created incredible results, were people who failed early, but were given respect instead of ridicule. Now let's talk about everyday life. You're walking down the street, and somebody trips and falls. Most people laugh. They think it's funny. But a wise person doesn't laugh. They help. They offer a hand. They check if the person is okay. That small act of dignity builds respect. It shows character. Because laughter in that moment doesn't make you clever. It makes you cruel. And cruelty, whether people admit it or not, is always remembered. People know who laughed at them. They may not say it, but they know. Here's the truth. Laughing at mistakes doesn't elevate you. It exposes you. It shows that you're insecure, that you need to push others down to feel tall. Strong men and women don't need that. They don't laugh when others fall. They lead, they guide, they support. And that's what earns trust. That's what builds loyalty. And don't forget, one day it'll be you making the mistake. One day it'll be you forgetting the line, dropping the papers, saying the wrong thing in front of everybody. And how would you want people to react? Would you want them laughing in your face, pointing fingers? Or would you want them giving you a chance to recover, to continue with dignity? That's the test. If you want mercy when you fail, you must give mercy when others fail. So remember this, when someone makes a mistake in public, your reaction defines you more than their mistake defines them. If you laugh, you look small. If you show respect, you look powerful. And in life, in leadership, in business, in friendships, that choice matters more than most people realize. Winners don't laugh at mistakes. Winners understand, they help, and they move forward. That's why they stay winners. There is no moment more sacred, more serious, and more defining of your character than how you behave when someone is experiencing loss. Funerals, times of grief, times of tragedy. This is not just about etiquette. This is about respect. This is about humanity. This is about who you are at your core. And I've got to tell you, one of the most disgraceful things a person can ever do is laugh in those moments. It doesn't matter if it's nervous laughter, careless laughter, or deliberate mockery. When people are grieving, laughter is a weapon. It cuts deeper than any insult, it destroys trust, and it marks you forever. I've attended many funerals in my life. Some were for close friends, some were for business associates, some were for people who shaped communities and families. And I can tell you at every funeral, every single one, there's a silence in the air that's almost heavy. It's a silence of respect, of reflection, of sorrow. And in that silence, every little sound matters. A laugh in that silence, it's like an explosion. It doesn't just echo, it scars the moment, it stains the memory, and it dishonors the people who are hurting. When people gather to mourn, they aren't there for jokes, they aren't there for entertainment. They aren't there to be reminded of the lightness of life. They're there to remember, to honor, to stand together in pain. They're there because someone mattered, and that person is gone. And when you laugh, you trivialize that. You reduce their grief to a punchline. And I promise you, nobody forgets that kind of disrespect. Think about a family who just lost a loved one. They are broken. They are fragile. They are barely holding it together. And in that moment you laugh. Maybe you thought it was harmless. Maybe you thought you were lightening the mood. But for them, it's like being stabbed while they're already bleeding. It's cruelty wrapped in carelessness. And it changes forever how they see you. Because they'll think, when I was at my lowest, when I was broken, you laughed. That's not something people forgive. Now, I want you to picture this, because I've seen it happen. A man is giving a eulogy. His hands are trembling. His voice is breaking. He's trying to hold himself together while honoring the person he loved. And he slips up. He mispronounces a word. Or maybe he breaks down in tears. And what does somebody in the audience do? They chuckle. They smirk. They think it's funny. Let me tell you something. That little laugh will stay with that grieving man for the rest of his life. He won't remember what was said in that speech. He won't remember half the faces in the crowd, but he will remember the sound of that laugh, because it was disrespect at the most vulnerable moment of his life. And this isn't just about funerals. Times of loss take many forms. A friend loses their job. A family loses their home. A community loses someone in an accident. A nation goes through tragedy. These are not moments for laughter. They are moments for strength, for unity, for empathy. And when you show that strength, when you give silence, a hand on the shoulder, a word of comfort, you become more than a person in that moment. You become a pillar. People will never forget the ones who stood with them in sorrow. That's leadership. That's wisdom. That's humanity at its highest level. Now, some people say, but what if laughter helps lighten the mood? What if it breaks the tension? Wrong. There's a big difference between sharing a warm memory that brings a gentle smile and laughing at the wrong time. If the family laughs at a story that reminds them of the good times, that's healing. That's part of honoring the life. But if you laugh in the wrong place, at the wrong time, when people are crying, when people are remembering the pain, you're not helping, you're hurting. Intent matters. Timing matters. Sensitivity matters. I'll never forget one particular funeral I attended. The family was heartbroken, completely devastated. A friend of the deceased got up to speak, and he was so overwhelmed, he broke down. He couldn't finish his words. The room was silent, supportive, respectful. But then someone in the back snickered. Just a little laugh, maybe nervous, maybe careless. But that moment, it turned the entire atmosphere. You could feel the anger, the disgust. The family looked back, hurt. That one laugh overshadowed everything else that man had done in his life. And let me tell you, people still talk about it years later. That's how damaging one laugh can be in times of loss. Respect is the currency of character. You don't earn it with wealth. You don't earn it with fame. You don't earn it with power. You earn it with how you treat people in their darkest hours. Anybody can be polite when things are good. Anybody can smile when the sun is shining. But real strength, real wisdom shows when things are dark, when hearts are broken, when the air is heavy with grief. That's when people see who you really are. And if you laugh in those moments, you fail the test of humanity. So here's what a wise man does. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't smirk. He doesn't make light of sorrow. He listens. He offers a quiet presence. He gives dignity. Maybe he says nothing. Maybe he just stands there. Maybe he just puts a hand on someone's back. And that small act means more than 1,000 words, more than 1,000 speeches, because it shows respect. And respect at a funeral or in any time of loss is everything. And let me add this, someday it will be your loss. Someday it will be your family sitting in the front row. Someday it will be your loved one being remembered. And how would you want people to behave? Would you want them laughing, joking, scrolling through their phones? Or would you want them to honor the moment, to honor you, to honor the person you loved? That's the perspective you need to carry with you, because when you understand that, you'll never laugh at grief again. The truth is, how you behave in times of loss defines your legacy more than how you behave in times of victory. Victory is easy, loss is hard, and when you show dignity in loss, your own or someone else's, you prove yourself to be more than just another face in the crowd. You prove yourself to be wise, to be strong, to be a leader, to be someone people can trust. That's what people remember. That's what endures. One of the biggest differences between people who rise to the top and people who stay stuck at the bottom is how they react when they're corrected. Think about it. Every single person in the world, no matter how smart, no matter how talented, no matter how successful, gets corrected. Teachers correct students, coaches correct players, bosses correct employees, and yes, even presidents and billionaires get corrected. The real question is this: do you laugh it off? Do you shrug it away? Do you dismiss it like it doesn't matter? Or do you take it seriously, listen, and grow stronger from it? That's the dividing line between winners and losers. I've seen this over and over again. Somebody makes a mistake, somebody points it out, and instead of paying attention, instead of learning, they laugh. They make a joke, they try to look like they don't care. And what happens? They stay the same. They don't improve. They keep repeating the same errors until eventually they fall behind. Because in life, if you're not learning, you're losing. There's no standing still. And laughter when somebody is correcting you is just a shield. It's a way of saying, I don't want to face the truth. I don't want to change. That's weakness. That's fear disguised as humor. Now, let me tell you what strong people do. When they get corrected, they pay attention. They don't joke. They don't brush it off. They lean in. They listen. They take notes. They ask questions. They say, okay, how do I fix this? How do I get better? And guess what happens? They get better. They grow. They rise. Because every correction is a chance to improve. Every piece of feedback is a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one at the time. I've been corrected plenty of times in my life. When I was young, when I was learning business, I made mistakes, big ones. And people told me some did it kindly, some did it harshly. And I had a choice. I could laugh it off, pretend I knew everything already, act like I was above it, or I could say, all right, maybe I didn't like how it was said, maybe I didn't like hearing it, but there's something here I need to learn. And every time I chose the second option, I came out stronger. That's how you grow. That's how you win. You see, losers hate being corrected because it hurts their pride. Winners love being corrected because it builds their future. That's the mindset shift. If somebody takes the time to point out what you're doing wrong, even if they don't say it perfectly, they're handing you an opportunity. They're saying, here's the gap. Fix it and you'll be better than before. And if you laugh at that, if you mock it, if you ignore it, you just threw away a golden chance. Let me give you an example. I once watched a young businessman give a pitch. He thought he was smooth. He thought he had all the answers. But his numbers were off. His delivery was sloppy, and somebody called him out on it. Instead of saying, thanks for pointing that out, I'll adjust, he laughed. He said, well, nobody's perfect, right? And he moved on. Everybody in the room saw it. And do you know what they thought? They thought, this guy's not serious. He's not ready. He's not someone we can trust with real responsibility. That one laugh cost him credibility. And credibility, once you lose it, is very hard to get back. Now, think about athletes. The greatest athletes in the world, basketball players, boxers, football stars, they get corrected constantly. Every practice, every game, their coaches are in their faces saying, fix your stance, fix your timing, fix your focus. And if they laughed every time the coach corrected them, they'd never make it past high school. But they don't laugh. They listen, they drill, they repeat until they master it. And that's why they become champions. It's the same in business. It's the same in leadership. It's the same in life. Another thing you need to understand is that correction is not humiliation. Many people confuse the two. They think if somebody corrects them in front of others, it's embarrassing, and they laugh to cover it up. But the truth is, correction is not humiliation. Correction is investment. If somebody takes the time to correct you, it means they see potential in you. It means they believe you can do better. If they thought you were hopeless, they wouldn't bother. They'd ignore you. They'd let you fail. So the fact that you're being corrected means you matter. It means somebody thinks you're worth improving. That's not something to laugh at. That's something to respect. Now, of course, not all correction feels good. Some of it stings. Some of it comes out harsh. Some of it isn't delivered the nicest way. But here's the truth. You can still take the lesson. You don't have to like the way it was said, but you can still use it to improve. That's what wise people do. They don't get stuck on the tone. They extract the truth. And the truth is what makes them better. I'll tell you something else. The way you respond to correction shows everyone around you what kind of person you are. If you laugh, people think you're immature, careless, not serious. If you get angry, they think you're arrogant, defensive, hard to work with. But if you take correction calmly, thoughtfully, with focus, they respect you. They say that's someone who's going places. And they'll want to work with you, invest in you, trust you. Your reaction in those moments builds or destroys your reputation more than you realize. So here's the bottom line. When somebody corrects you, don't laugh, don't joke, don't treat it like nothing. Take it seriously. Listen, learn, apply, because every correction is a stepping stone. And if you step on enough of them, you rise higher than you ever thought possible. That's how you turn mistakes into success. That's how you transform criticism into growth. That's how you separate yourself from the pack. Remember this, winners are learners, and learning never stops. The moment you stop learning, you start losing. But as long as you can take correction without laughing it away, you'll keep climbing, you'll keep growing, and you'll keep winning. There are moments in life, and I call them defining moments, when everything is on the line. A disaster hits, a tragedy strikes, a crisis unfolds right before your eyes. It could be a natural disaster, it could be an accident, it could be a war, it could even be something as personal as a family emergency. These are the moments that test who you really are. And I'll tell you this straight, if you laugh in those moments, if you treat them lightly, if you act like it's all just a joke, you fail the test. You show weakness, you show insensitivity, and you lose respect forever. Because laughter in a crisis is not confidence, it's carelessness. And carelessness in crisis destroys lives. I've lived through many crises. I've seen buildings burn, markets collapse, cities shut down. I've seen people lose everything in the blink of an eye. And I've also seen leaders, some strong and some weak, stand up in those moments. The strong ones stayed calm, focused, determined. The weak ones cracked jokes, smiled when they shouldn't, tried to laugh it off. And people never forgave them for it. Because in a crisis, people aren't looking for comedy. They're looking for stability. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for someone who takes the weight seriously, who understands the gravity of the moment. Imagine this. A fire breaks out, the alarms are sounding, people are panicked, and you see someone laughing. What do you think of them? Do you think, wow, what a confident person? No, you think they're a fool, completely out of touch with reality. Or worse, you think they're cruel, enjoying the suffering of others. In that moment, their laughter doesn't make them look strong, it makes them look inhuman. Or picture this, a country is facing a disaster, maybe a flood, maybe an earthquake. Thousands of families are affected, homes are gone, people are desperate. And the person in charge, the one who's supposed to provide direction, laughs, smiles at the cameras, cracks a little joke. Do you know what that does? It destroys trust. It tells people, your suffering doesn't matter to me. And once you lose that trust in a crisis, you can never get it back. People will remember forever that when they needed seriousness, you gave them mockery. Now let's bring it closer to home. Think about your own family. Something serious happens, maybe somebody gets sick, maybe there's an accident, maybe the money runs out and the bills are piling up. This is a crisis. This is the time when everybody looks to somebody for strength. And if you laugh, if you brush it off, if you act like it's all just nothing, you lose your role as a leader in your family. They won't trust you, they won't follow you. They'll think, when I needed strength, you gave me weakness. That's a wound that doesn't heal easily. A wise man knows that crisis is not the time for jokes. Crisis is the time for action. It's the time for calm thinking, for sharp decisions, for strength. You keep your face steady, your voice steady, your mind steady. Because in a crisis, everyone else is shaken, everyone else is emotional, everyone else is falling apart, and the leader is the one who stays unshaken. That steadiness gives people hope. That seriousness gives people direction. That's what saves lives, saves families, saves nations. And let me tell you, people remember forever how you act in a crisis. Not just for a day, not just for a week, forever. If you act with strength, if you stay composed, if you carry the weight, they'll respect you for the rest of your life. They'll say, when everything was falling apart, he stood strong. He didn't laugh. He didn't make light of it. He was serious. He was steady. He was a rock. And that kind of reputation is priceless. It's worth more than money, more than power, more than any title. It's the reputation of a leader. I'll give you an example from business. Years ago, I was in the middle of a huge project. Everything was at stake. Millions of dollars, hundreds of jobs, the future of the development. And something went wrong. Big problem. Everybody panicked. Phones ringing off the hook. People shouting. Total chaos. I walked in and you know what I saw? Some people were nervous, some were terrified, but one or two were even laughing, as if to say, well, what can you do? And right there, I knew they weren't the kind of people I could trust. Because if you laugh when everything's burning down, you're not serious enough to rebuild. You're not sharp enough to make the tough calls. You're not strong enough to lead. I got rid of them because crisis reveals character. The opposite is also true. I've seen people in the worst situations, when everything was collapsing, stay calm, focused, and serious. No jokes, no nervous laughter, just solutions. Those are the people you want on your side. Those are the people who rise. Because in the middle of crisis, when everybody else is distracted, they're laser focused. That's what separates winners from losers, leaders from followers, survivors from victims. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should be miserable or hopeless in a crisis. There's a difference between despair and seriousness. Seriousness means you recognize the weight of the moment and you give it the respect it deserves. Later, after the crisis is handled, after the dust has settled, after you've secured the win, that's when you can laugh. That's when you can celebrate. But during the fire, during the storm, during the chaos, you keep your laughter locked away. Because that's how you show people, I understand, I'm focused, I'm in control. So here's what you need to take with you. When crisis comes, and it always does, sooner or later, you don't laugh, you don't crack jokes, you don't dismiss it. You step into leadership. You show calm, steady, unshakable strength. and people will never forget it. That's how you turn crisis into opportunity. That's how you win respect that lasts a lifetime. And that's how you show the world that when others fall apart, you rise. Money. Let's talk about money, folks, because money is one of the greatest tests of character. How you handle it, how you respect it, and just as important, how you treat other people when they don't have it. And I'll say this right up front, one of the ugliest, lowest, weakest things a person can ever do is laugh at someone else's financial struggles. There is nothing funny about poverty. There is nothing amusing about debt. There is no humor in a family not knowing how they're going to pay the bills, feed their children, or keep a roof over their heads. That is not comedy. That is crisis. And the person who laughs at it, who mocks it, who turns it into a joke, is showing the world that they are small, selfish, and cruel. I've known wealth, tremendous wealth. I've also seen struggle, up close, personal, all around me. In New York City, you see it every day. On one side of the street, skyscrapers filled with billion-dollar deals. On the other side, people who can't afford rent, who are hustling just to survive. And let me tell you, laughing at the second group while you're sitting in the first group is not power. It's weakness. It's arrogance. It's the fastest way to lose respect. Because real power, real strength, real leadership is not mocking those who have less. It's lifting them up, respecting them, helping them find their way back. I've watched people lose everything. The market crashes, the deals fall apart, the job disappears overnight. Families who thought they were secure suddenly drowning in bills. People who used to be respected suddenly humiliated. And in those moments, they don't need someone laughing at them. They don't need mockery. They don't need a reminder of how low they've fallen. They need dignity. They need encouragement. They need somebody to say, this isn't the end. You can get back up. Because here's the truth. Money is temporary. It comes, it goes, it flows like a tide. But respect, dignity, and character, those are permanent. And if you laugh at someone's financial pain, you lose all three. Think about this. How many times in history have fortunes been lost overnight? How many powerful men and women have gone from riches to rags in a single year? It happens. It happens to the best of them. And if you laugh when someone else falls, don't forget, you could be next. The same fate could come for you. And when it does, those you laughed at will remember. They won't help you. They won't comfort you. They'll turn away because you turned away when they were down. I've seen businesses collapse. I've seen people get laid off by the thousands. And I'll tell you, the leaders who stood with their people in those times, who treated them with respect, who didn't laugh, who didn't mock those leaders, kept loyalty forever. But the ones who laughed, who acted like it was no big deal, who turned their workers' pain into a joke, they were hated, despised, remembered as villains, and you never recover from that reputation. Let me give you a picture. A man walks into a bank, nervous, embarrassed, trying to explain that he can't make the mortgage payment this month. Maybe he's worked his whole life. Maybe he's done everything right. But something went wrong. He's humiliated, vulnerable, asking for time, and the banker laughs. Think about that. Do you know what that does to him? It crushes him. It doesn't just wound his pride, it wounds his soul. Because money struggles are not just about dollars and cents. They're about survival, about security, about identity. And when you laugh at that, you strip away someone's dignity. That's cruelty at the highest level. Now flip the story. Same man, same bank, same problem. But instead of laughter, the banker says, I understand. Let's see what we can do. Respect, empathy. That little moment changes everything. He walks away still burdened, but with dignity intact. And dignity is priceless. And don't think this lesson only applies to strangers. It applies to your friends, your family, your coworkers. When someone close to you is struggling financially, the worst thing you can do is laugh. Maybe they drive an old car. Maybe they can't go out to expensive dinners. Maybe they wear the same clothes often. And some people laugh. They think it's funny. They think it makes them look superior. But it doesn't. It makes them look cheap. Because mocking someone's financial struggles doesn't show your wealth. It shows your poverty of character. I've had people laugh at me too when I went through tough times. There were moments when the press, the critics, they said I was finished. They laughed at the idea that I'd come back. But I didn't let their laughter destroy me. I used it as fuel, and I came back bigger, stronger, more successful than ever. That's what winners do. But I never forgot the ones who laughed, and neither will the people you laugh at when they're down. You want to be wise? Here's wisdom. Never laugh at financial struggle, because it could be you tomorrow. Never mock the poor, because wealth is not permanent. Never joke about debt, because debt can suffocate a person's soul. Instead, show respect, show empathy, offer encouragement, offer solutions. That's what makes you a leader. That's what makes you a winner. And that's what earns you loyalty that no amount of money can buy. Remember this: money is numbers on a page. It can vanish in a moment. Respect is carved in stone. And the way you treat people in their hardest financial struggles is the way you'll be remembered forever. Not for the size of your bank account, not for the cars you drove or the houses you owned, but for whether you laughed at those who were struggling or stood with them. So the next time you see someone who's down financially, resist the urge to laugh, resist the urge to joke, resist the urge to act superior, because in that moment, your reaction defines you more than their struggle defines them. And if you choose respect, you rise. If you choose laughter, you fall. And that choice, yours, not theirs, will echo long after the money is gone. Ladies and gentlemen, we've walked through something very important together. 7 lessons, 7 powerful truths that separate the wise from the foolish, the strong from the weak, the winners from the losers. And if you think about it, every one of these lessons has the same root: respect. Respect for people, respect for moments, respect for life itself, because that's what wisdom really is. Knowing when to laugh and knowing when not to laugh. Understanding that laughter is a powerful tool, but when used in the wrong place at the wrong time, it destroys more than it builds. Let's go back for a second. Think about all the times you've seen people laugh when they shouldn't have. When someone was pouring out their struggles, when a serious negotiation was on the line, when a person made a mistake in front of a crowd, when families were grieving, when someone was being corrected, when the world was in crisis, when people were financially broken. Think about those moments. Every time the laughter didn't make the situation better, it made it worse. It tore down trust. It broke relationships. It killed respect. That's the truth, and everybody knows it deep down. Now I want you to ask yourself, where have you been guilty of this? Have you ever laughed when you should have stayed silent? Have you ever smirked when someone else was in pain? Have you ever brushed off a correction with a joke instead of taking it seriously? Be honest, because wisdom starts with honesty. And if you can admit it, if you can see it, then you can change it. You don't have to carry that mistake forever. You can start today, right now, to become the wise man, the strong leader, the respected person who never laughs at the wrong time. And let me tell you why this matters so much. Life is short. Life is fragile. One day you're up, one day you're down. One day you're the one in power, the one with the success, the one with the resources. The next day you could be the one struggling, the one in need, the one at the bottom. That's how life works. And the way you treat people when they are down will come back to you when your time comes. If you mocked them, if you laughed at them, if you treated their pain like entertainment, don't expect mercy when it's your turn. But if you respected them, if you gave them dignity, if you showed seriousness when it mattered, you'll receive the same. Because what you give out in this world always comes back around. A wise man avoids laughing in these 7 situations because he understands something very simple. Winning in life is not just about money, not just about power, not just about fame. Winning is about character. It's about how people see you, how people remember you, how people speak your name when you're not in the room. You could build skyscrapers, you could run companies, you could achieve incredible success. But if people remember you as the one who laughed at their pain, at their loss, at their mistakes, then all that success means nothing. But if they remember you as the one who stood tall, who showed respect, who gave strength when others laughed, that's a legacy, that's immortality. And make no mistake, these aren't just small social rules. These are principles of leadership, principles of greatness. Every great leader in history, every person who was truly admired, truly followed, understood the power of restraint, the power of seriousness, the power of respect. They didn't laugh when nations were in crisis. They didn't laugh at the poor, the grieving, the struggling. They carried themselves with dignity. They knew when to smile, and they knew when to be silent. And that is why they were trusted. That is why they were remembered. Now here's what I want for you. I want you to take these 7 lessons and burn them into your memory. Don't just hear them once and forget them. Live them. Practice them. The next time someone shares their struggles with you, don't laugh. Listen, the next time you sit down at a negotiating table, stay serious, stay strong. The next time someone trips or fails or makes a mistake in front of a crowd, don't laugh. Help them recover. The next time you're at a funeral or you see a family in mourning, give silence, give respect. The next time someone corrects you, don't laugh it off. Take it to heart, improve, grow. The next time there's a crisis, keep your face calm, your mind sharp, your spirit strong. And the next time you see someone struggling financially, don't laugh. Show them dignity. Show them encouragement. Because that's what winners do. That's what leaders do. That's what wise men do. And let me close with this. Laughter is powerful. Used in the right way, it brings joy, it heals wounds, it builds connections. But used in the wrong way, it destroys everything. Respect, relationships, opportunities, trust. A wise man knows the difference. And after today, so do you. So go out there. Live differently, act differently. Be the person people can trust, the one they can lean on, the one they respect. Be the wise man who knows when to laugh and when not to. Because that choice, your choice, will define your character, your reputation, your legacy. And in the end, that's worth more than gold.